The Toxic Workplace Behaviour collection is an amalgamation of behaviours I have seen used to covertly manipulate and bully people in the workplace, more than 4 instances in various industries over the last 12 months. With my filter and awareness, I created 3 clusters of micromanagement traits that will help you discern patterns and degrees of safety as individuals or as HR professionals trying to stamp out workplace bullying and working out how you can protect the business and the human beings within the business from behaviours that serve first and foremost an individual's needs. Where there are people getting hurt, there is poor leadership, and this affects everyone, including bystanders. I have 3 clusters and overarching terms for them all. You may be surprised, you may disagree, you may agree, you may have experience, you may have seen this elsewhere, you may have been a bystander at one point. Please don't feel guilty, we've all done it. And it's a very compromising and difficult position to be in, because your own safety, financial safety, your family's well-being, etc., has to be taken into account as well. So it's being by no means a judgment. But this is where I encourage you to get out of the echo chamber and share your thoughts and comments below, and even challenge me on what I've said and what I think, because it's really important that we collectively deal with these things as opposed to just hide behind grey rocks. Yes, that's a psychological term, or hide behind a grey rocking type situation where actually nobody says anything and this continues to permeate and hurt people and really hurt usually the most vulnerable people in society. So this is my, I suppose, way of helping the most vulnerable people in society have a chance to be able to at least get at least a step further, and to help workplaces not have to succumb to people who seem to have a lot of power and influence, when in actual fact it should be the company that has the power and influence, not the person. So welcome back to cluster 2, and cluster 2 is fake. I'm going to open this with a quote that I found on Toxic Positivity. The quote wasn't credited, so I don't know who the quote is from, but I think it's quite relevant to the whole point we're trying to make here. So toxic positivity is the idea that we should always maintain a positive outlook, even when we're struggling or it feels like the world is burning around us. Because what that does is it diminishes somebody's reality and puts them into a false sense of what a reality should look like. In psychological terms, this is gaslighting, and it's not helpful. It can often compound and make things worse. Life is hard. There are bad things that happen in the world for each of us, and we will all experience loss and pain and challenges in life. The heaviness should be acknowledged, not bright-sided. I will leave the links to where I got those quotes from in the description. So please do look in the links in the description for links. And anything that I reference or say in here, all the links are in the description below, so you can go check anything out and go do some further exploration should you want to. So let's look at cluster 2, which I just called false or fake. And they include false positivity, fake niceness, and fake conversations. So a fake conversation is instigated for the purpose of both gathering information and eliciting positive emotion for that person's personal gain, not for your personal gain. And again, another one in the trilogy series that is insidious, and it means that a victim of this would sound utterly ridiculous. Is, well, all they did was speak to me, so how is it bullying? Well, then they later use whatever I said against me. Well, what did you say? Well, nothing really, but it's just put me in a really bad light, and I'm now in a really awkward situation, and I don't know how to get out of it because I now look really, really bad, and that wasn't what was intended. It's basically a way of twisting up who you are in somebody else's eyes, and it's a horrible, horrible behaviour. So we can describe the kind of things and insert a name is seen as unpleasant. And honestly, and then the victim starts to second guess their feelings around that person, thinks Maybe I'm projecting, maybe I'm a bit too harsh, maybe I need to let it go. After all, I do sound utterly ridiculous. And this self-gaslighting means they don't even need to bully you anymore because you're now doing it to yourself by proxy. Um, it's a horrible, horrible thing to be involved with. So if somebody starts speaking to you that doesn't normally, in a way that's a little bit over friendly, that's socially not right for that situation, then that for me would be an indication of the of questioning, well, why are you speaking to me? What does it matter to you? And how much information am I willing to give at this point? Or how or in answers, how much am I willing to answer at this point without actually knowing your motivation behind the questions? And that sounds like that we have to be on our guard all the time with conversation. If you feel like you're being bullied and something is off, then I would be on guard with whatever conversation that person was trying to have with me at any point whatsoever. If I didn't feel that that person was a threat in any other way, shape, or form, I would probably say, okay, that's just a little bit odd, and leave it at that. Again, like I said in video one, like I said in the bullying overview video, and I'll keep repeating it, these behaviours on their own don't mean anything. And this is why it's really, really difficult to try and pinpoint anything. But if they're aimed just at you and they're making you feel a particular way, then that's valid. And that shouldn't be ignored. And you do need to find a way to at least have someone to speak to about this that doesn't make you feel like you're going crazy, because that's unfair, and it's also the aim if that is the case. So I'll give you an example. You've been ignored in the office and at work for some time by most people, and then suddenly out of the blue you start getting the odd compliment that you're having an issue, and so you turn to a friend to a friendly face for advice. And this friendly face will be that person that suddenly started giving you a compliment because you've suddenly already started seeing them on a subconscious level as someone that you can possibly at least have a conversation with. And they're in that vicinity, they understand, they will potentially have that social understanding with you, so it feels kind of like a natural place to go. And your new office ally kind of gives you an ear, or they see you're struggling and you're not going anywhere, and they offer the ear in the first place. They say, oh, I'm happy to listen, etc. And then you confide. And then these conversations are relayed back to you by someone else or even by them, and they're phrased in such a way that you are gossiping, making others look bad, or you are causing problems because you felt a problem yourself in the first place and you wasn't sure what to do about it, or even if it was a problem, and whether something just wasn't, adding up, as it were. And the reason this is insidious is because, again, it looks crazy. It looks absolutely crazy. But I've had this. I've been in situations where I've gone and I've spoken to somebody thinking that that person may have my back because ultimately they're in a leadership position, and they're in the right position for the process for me to say, actually, do you know what, I'm struggling here and I need some help. And what they've done is used all my words against me, or somebody else has gone and told tales, or somebody else has been one of their flying monkeys, something I mentioned in Cluster 1 video, flying monkeys. It's definitely a lot more relevant in this video, that has come and said, Samantha's been saying this and she's been saying that, and I just thought I'd best let you know. And then this person's come to me and said, well, I know you're having problems and you've been open and you've spoken to me, but you've been telling everybody else as well. And that's really not on, because now you're making everybody else look bad. Well, that does nothing for the fact that the person who was struggling in the first place was doing things because they were struggling in the first place, trying to ask for help, that actually weren't gossiping at all. They just didn't know where to go for help at that point. So that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to find out. And what they did is they mentioned it in front of one of their flying monkeys, and one of their flying monkeys came back and said, oh, Samantha telling Thelma she's gossiping and she's doing this and she's doing that. And then it came back on me. And I was asked about it, and I completely just said, yeah, I did that. I said that. I'm sorry if that was the wrong thing to do. I'm sorry if that's not what you wanted. I was struggling, and I said that, and I probably said that in the wrong place. That actually really, in my case, took this person aback. Because I don't think they were expecting the admittance or something. I think they were expecting me to deny the fact that I'd said anything to anybody else. But I'm not a liar. I'm not a liar. And there's one thing that I've learned over the years is to be totally and utterly honest. And so I am. I practice transparency all the time. And it is a practice because it's so easy to go away and hide sometimes. But when you go and hide, things always have a way of catching up with you. And ironically, one thing that I've learned from my very dysfunctional family is to always be honest, transparent, and tell the truth. I was a scapegoat at that time, but not they didn't realise, and I didn't realise that actually that was probably some of the best advice that they gave me, because I followed this advice through my life, and it means I don't have to live with the guilt that some people live with when they don't open up, when they don't say anything, when they see other people in situations they can't necessarily help, but they just don't do anything about it as well. Not to say that I'm a savior of any kind, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. But it also means that I've never been able to back down either. That has its own negative side, I won't lie, because it means I can't be bullied, but it means my vulnerabilities can be used against me and make me more vulnerable, and they have done numerous times. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an easy situation to navigate by. It just isn't. So I feel for anybody that is there, and it's definitely not a judgment. I wish sometimes I could keep my mouth shut, but I can't. I can't stand, and I'm almost programmed to not stand by and watch other people be bullied or attacked as well. Like I say, good or bad or indifferent as that may be, it's not a virtue signal. I'm not perfect by any stretch, and sometimes I wish I could just do things in a very different way because it would have made my life easier. Especially at times when I've needed that. But ultimately, I haven't lost sleep at night because of that. I may have lost sleep for other reasons instead. You choose what you lose sleep over, I suppose. It's not easy, and I'm not sat here pretending that it is. But these things can look really, really innocent and harmless, but they can very quickly be turned onto you as if you're the one that's the problem, when all you asked for was help. And you're supposed to be able to ask for help wherever you are. That's the whole point of being part of society, paying your taxes, doing as you're told, following the rules, all that kind of stuff, so that you can go and ask for help when you need it. And if you can't ask for help when you need it, then you're functioning in a society that isn't functioning very well. And a lot of workplaces just don't function very well. They're their own little miniature societies, miniature cultures, and they do operate with their own set of rules, and those set of rules can be very, very harmful. So again, just watch out for these things. Be careful who you confide in. If you can confide out of work, do so. But if the problem is in work and you need the problem solving in work, then just be mindful over the process and even the chain of command when you go and try and deal with this, because that in itself, if the chain of command is toxic, you're going to be left in a lose-lose situation, and the only person losing is you. It's never going to be them. You're always going to be the one that looks bad. So yeah, just watch out for that. The other thing is fake nice. Fake nice has multiple strands, and I could go on forever and ever, a bit like I've just done about the fake conversations, in all honesty, but I'm going to keep it short and concise. So when someone says something nice to you in a way that makes you feel bad, and I covered this a little bit in the cluster one video with peacocking, like a backhanded compliment. For an example is, well, you look great today. The insinuation is that normally you don't look great at all. And and you feel that. We are affected by people's tone and behavior. And there's a whole thing around behavior analysis and understanding and reading behavior, and reading body language and behavior is an art, not a science. But we all read body language and behavior all the time, and we all interpret in different ways. And we all tend to understand the baselines of people that we that we work around or spend time around and who we're with. So we know when that changes that something isn't quite right. And that quite right could be for someone just excited and they're off on one, and that's cool. So that quite right might be not quite right, might be a positive, or it could be just not quite right, as in, you know what, this is starting to feel like it's getting a little bit dark, a bit shadowy. And then that can be really negative. So again, just be careful when you interpret stuff. Baseline is important with things. I do follow a lot of behavioural arts experts and behavioural analysis experts who happen to also be psychologists and experts in interrogation and all sorts of other things. And it's for this reason, it's to get a rounded view on what this actually is, because we can all read body language and behaviour different, and it varies from culture to culture and from business to business and from person to person. So you've really got to understand the key thing with anything like that is baseline. What is their norm, and what then comes away from the norm to say, well, that's different, and is this different good, or is this different bad, or is this different positive, is this different negative, depending on which terms you want to use there. But yeah, again, be really careful. But if someone is being fake nice, you will feel it, especially if it's to you, even if no one else around you sees it and feels it. So it's very much in the delivery of the what and the why something is said. So like I said, we focus on body language and intonation as well as words. It's something that humans actually do. It's not that in itself isn't a mystery of sorts. It's just the interpretation can be very different, as I've already said. And if you want us to come into your workplace, or you want to learn more about this, I do offer a course at the end of every month as an introduction course to understanding leadership, communication, and behaviour, where behaviour comes from, and how, and the drivers of behaviour. It's very basic stuff, but it's very basic stuff that will help you build pictures moving forward and see things hopefully just a little bit more clearly. And certainly if you're coming up to a leadership position, or you are in a leadership position and you do want to do better, and well-being for you is something you definitely take seriously, you don't pretend to take seriously, then it's going to be really, really useful for you to actually have that introduction workshop. Again, it's at the end of the month. It's on my website. All the details will be in the description below. But you're more than welcome to come and join me on that. And if you like it and you enjoy it, we can have a talk about me coming and doing stuff in the workplace, and to just explain well-being and behaviour and communication, or all this just a little bit more from the angle that you believe is useful for your business. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is false or toxic positivity. So I mentioned this right in the beginning of this video, and I'm going to end with it. I think I did this in cluster 1 video too. And again, it's rife in the wellness community, and I suppose this is why I'm coming over from wellness and a lot into the workplace stuff, is because I've been part of the wellness community for a long, long time now. It feels like forever. It's not quite forever. It's just under a decade, but it does feel a bit like that. But there's so much parroting and parodying and copying and things, misinformation and things that aren't true and things that sound good that aren't, because it's led by charismatic people. And it's just an extension of basically what happens in the workplace. Everything just seems to be a bigger reflection of what's already happening elsewhere. And I really, really dislike it. But you'll find lots of very positive, well-meaning, well-intended quotes everywhere, from Pinterest to Instagram to LinkedIn's full of them. LinkedIn is diabolical with them. And with really no context behind it, these things can be very triggering. They can be gaslighting. They can really tell you, like I said right at the beginning, tell you how to basically negate your reality. Your world is falling down. Everything just feels like it's burning around you. But as long as somebody else says, well, you're still alive, the grass is greener on the other side, you can go do this, and you're still breathing, that's fine. And really minimize what it is that you're struggling with, or what it is that you're feeling, then that's toxic positivity. Positivity isn't there to minimize, and sometimes being positive is hard, and that's okay too. But we're not having those conversations. Sometimes, just if something is a little bit light, just having that toxic kind of flippant switch can be quite useful. not denying everything has its place, but in the main, they're used really, really badly. And I'm going to give you some examples. So, the wellness community, I personally really dislike it, and I've noticed it for a long time. But we have people like Andrew Huberman from the Huberman Lab. And we have Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins and Gabriella Bernstein and Joe Rogan and all these kind of big names, and they're all attached to the wellness industry, but they're all well-known podcasters now, and some of them have got really good credentials, some of them are just popular by demand. In terms, I think Gabriella Bernstein, I don't know if she's got any qualifications, certainly that I'm aware of. That doesn't mean she hasn't. But we know Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist, and he's a very well thought of neuroscientist. But he goes off into other areas where he should really just leave things alone, because it's not his area of expertise, and all he's doing is selling a product to the back of it, and he's borrowing authority from where he is qualified to sell something he is not qualified to sell. But you don't see that. It's not obvious, and therefore we all fall for it. These things do happen in the workplace too, where people borrow authority from each other. Sometimes borrowing authority can be okay. In sales and in marketing, borrowed authority is a big thing. It's literally a driver of sales, and it's a manipulation tactic. It can be used both positively and negatively. But things like you might see it, and I'm going to be a little bit jokey, like coffee enemas and things like that, where they borrow authority from, well, this hasn't worked for you, and this hasn't worked for you, and coffee isn't good here, and you shouldn't drink coffee, but you can put it up your bum. That's fine. And you can clean yourself out that way, and your gut health will massively improve. Just be careful what it is you get sucked into. Toxic positivity comes in all shapes and forms and sizes, and it can just be your best friend at work reading something that's particularly bad, that's enough to trigger you and start you feeling bad. And then all it takes for somebody else that has a little bit of that bullying personality to pick up on that, and that's used as something that can absolutely, totally, and utterly destroy you. That might sound like a leap, but these things happen. So, with regards to the toxic positivity, with the trying to future fake and make everything okay, and people diminishing what you're feeling or not really accepting you in a position where it's difficult for them to feel and therefore have empathy, or they're just too busy and they don't care enough. It just means they're the wrong people to listen to you. It doesn't mean that actually you should start gaslighting yourself and start really having a word with yourself and beating yourself up over what you're feeling. It probably just means you just need to find someone that has a little bit more care for you and an understanding of you to have a conversation with. And I have taken a few quotes from a website as examples of toxic positivity, just to really show you what's out there and what to be aware of, and basically question as much as you can, and anything, and even just for the sake of it, because that will help you not fall for things quite so badly, and can hopefully prevent you from getting more hurt than could happen. So, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I don't know about you, but I don't feel like any adverse situation in my life has made me stronger. It's made me question 3 times as much whether I've ever been right about anything. It's made me really go into myself and think, my God, am I really a lunatic? It's not made me stronger, it's held me back. And I think a lot of people, if you speak to them now that have a little bit more context around that, may agree. Other people may not. And again, context matters. Everything is going to be okay. But if you feel your world's falling down and you've just lost your job and you don't know where you're going next, and you've got problems at home and nothing feels to be going right for you, then nothing is not going to be okay, is it? And someone saying to you, well, everything's going to be okay, probably ain't going to be very helpful. If someone just says to you, do you know what, I get it, everything's a little bit freaking rubbish for you right now, that can be enough to make you feel better and say, "Do you know what, at least somebody else gets it. I'm not being told that it's all okay." So I don't feel like the magnitude of what's happening is exaggerated by me. Instead, it's being accepted that actually, do you know what, it's not great. But it doesn't mean you can't find a way to problem solve or move around it. It just means at the moment everything's not going to be okay. And sometimes that's just the way it is. I'm not going to say, well, that's okay too, because I think that's an equally toxic idea. It's okay to not be okay and all that kind of stuff. They all have their positive and negative sides, but I believe context is massively important around these things. Otherwise, they can be very damaging. You are who you are because of what happened to you. Now, personally, I believe who I am is what I am, is what I was going to be, regardless of what happened to me. It may look slightly different. What's happened to me may have impacted some of my choices, and therefore the options that have been open to me and the path that I've taken. But at the core of who I am is the core of who I am. That hasn't changed because someone abused me or didn't abuse me or neglected or bullied or whatever else. They were just things that happened along the way that happened to make me question myself a little bit more. They didn't necessarily influence who I was going to be. They might have influenced what route I might take or the choices that I might make alongside of that, but they've not necessarily influenced who I'm going to be. So then, therefore, I'm not what I am because of what happened to me. But again, I think that's a really good point. You are a lot of my work. Be able to justify that because there's no less than human in my opinion. Your opinion might be well. As I've said through the last couple of videos, your comments down below. I'm always good to share these things. I don't like the video. We're all trying to have a Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends too. If you want to learn more about behaviour, communication and well-being and how to do it well, subscribe to my channel and please find all our company details in the description below along with links and references. And don't forget to look through our growing catalogue of videos to help you all lead well. Take care, be alert, look out for one another, stay safe,